The stars looked different from the observation deck of the UES horizon. Olivia Mercer stood with her hands behind her back, watching as the ship approached the massive Vexari vessel. At 42, she had spent most of her adult life preparing for this moment, humanity's first official contact with an advanced alien civilization. "Commander Mercer, they're hailing us again," said Lieutenant Peter Howard from his station. The young communications officer looked nervous, his fingers tapping against the console. "Put them through," Olivia said, straightening her navy blue uniform. The United Earth Defense Force had chosen her to lead this mission because of her diplomatic skills and calm under pressure. Both would be tested today. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being that looked almost like a tall, thin human, but with silvery skin and eyes that reflected light like mirrors. The alien spoke, its words translated by the ship's computer. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am High Ambassador Keltar of the Vexari Confederation. We welcome you to the galactic community." Olivia stepped forward. "Thank you, Ambassador. I am Commander Olivia Mercer of the United Earth Defense Force. We are honored to meet you and look forward to peaceful exchange between our peoples." The meeting had been set up after the Vexari had sent probes into the solar system 6 months ago. After initial fear and confusion, Earth's governments had united to prepare for this moment. Now standing before these aliens who had mastered travel between stars, Olivia felt the weight of 7 billion lives on her shoulders. "Please prepare to board our vessel," Ambassador Keltar said. "We have much to discuss." 3 hours later, Olivia sat with her team in a large circular room aboard the Vexari ship. The walls glowed with a soft blue light, and the air smelled faintly of cinnamon. Besides Olivia, the human delegation included Intelligence Officer Alan Wright, Science Officer Linda Peterson, and Military Advisor John Carter. The Vexari had brought their own team, Ambassador Keltar, a military commander named Zivax, and several scientists whose names were hard for humans to pronounce. "As you can see," Keltar said, showing holographic images of various technologies, "we offer these gifts freely to your people. Faster ships, clean energy, medical advances that will end disease on your planet." Alan Wright watched carefully. His gray eyes narrowed. At 38, he had spent years analyzing communication patterns, first in the FBI and later for space intelligence. Something about the Vexari's offers seemed too good to be true. "And what do you ask in return, Ambassador?" Olivia asked. Keltar's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "Only friendship and alliance. The Vexari Confederation includes 7 species who have lived in peace for centuries. We wish to bring humanity into our family." Later, back on the West horizon, Alan paced in Olivia's office. "I don't trust them," he said flatly. Olivia sighed. "You don't trust anyone, Alan. It's why you're good at your job." "This isn't just my usual caution." Alan stopped pacing and placed a data pad on Olivia's desk. "Look at these communication patterns. They're holding back information, using language that suggests superiority. And I've analyzed the technology they're offering. It's impressive but limited. They're keeping the best for themselves." "That would be natural even in human negotiations," Olivia pointed out. "There's more." Alan pulled up more files. "I've been working with Linda to analyze their ship's capabilities. They're far more advanced than what they're showing us. And look at this." He showed a partial map of Vexari territory. "See these systems? The Vexari claim they're protected worlds under their guidance. But notice the defense systems and the restricted space travel for the native species." Olivia frowned as she studied the data. "You think these aren't allies, but subjects?" "I think the Vexari have a pattern of finding developing spacefaring species, offering technology, then gradually taking control. Not through open war, but through dependence and eventual military presence for protection." Over the next week, Olivia and her team gathered more evidence. Linda discovered that the medical technology offered would require constant Vexari oversight. John found that the defense systems would actually allow Vexari ships to bypass them easily. When they presented their concerns to the Vexari, Ambassador Keltar laughed softly. Commander Mercer, your species is young and naturally cautious. Your violent history makes you see threats where none exist. The technologies we offer come with guidance because you are not ready to control them fully. Children must learn before they can run. Commander Zivax, the military leader, was less diplomatic. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. If we wished to conquer Earth, we could have done so without these talks. The dismissal stung, but what happened next worried Olivia more. The Vexari announced they had contacted other developing worlds in nearby systems. Humanity wasn't the only youngling species they were bringing into their fold. Back on Earth, Olivia and Alan presented their findings to the United Nations Security Council. The room was tense as world leaders listened to their warnings. Believe the Vexari plan to eventually control Earth and any other developing worlds through a combination of technological dependence and military presence, Olivia explained. They don't need to conquer us if we willingly give up our independence for their technology. Some leaders were convinced, but others pointed to the benefits the Vexari offered. Advanced medicine alone would save millions of lives. Clean energy would solve climate problems. The debate lasted hours. Finally, Admiral Catherine Donovan spoke up. The head of the United Earth Defense Force had been quietly listening until now. We need more information before we commit either way, she said. Commander Mercer, your team will continue diplomatic relations. Appear receptive but cautious. Meanwhile, we will establish a special project to analyze any technology they share. After the meeting, Admiral Donovan pulled Olivia and Alan aside. I believe your warnings, she said quietly. But we need time. I'm implementing Protocol Cassandra, effective immediately. Cassandra? Alan asked. From Greek mythology, Olivia explained. The prophet who spoke the truth but whom no one believed. Admiral Donovan nodded grimly. We'll publicly embrace their gifts while secretly preparing for the worst. If you're wrong, we gain valuable technology. If you're right. She looked out the window at the night sky where the Vexari ship orbited Earth like a new star. If you're right, humanity will be ready when they show their true intentions. As Olivia left the building, she looked up at that same sky. The Vexari had dismissed their warnings as paranoia from a primitive species. They might soon learn that underestimating humanity was a dangerous mistake. 10 years passed since first contact with the Vexari. Earth had changed dramatically in that time. Cities now had tall buildings with curved lines that seemed to defy gravity. Vehicles floated above the ground. Hospitals used machines that could heal wounds in minutes. On the surface, humanity embraced the gifts from the stars. Below that surface, a different story unfolded. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Zachary Coleman floated in zero gravity, watching as massive robotic arms assembled the hull of a warship. At 45, Zachary had spent the last decade leading Project SHIELD, one of many secret initiatives under Protocol Cassandra. Director Coleman, the latest test results are ready, said his assistant, Natalie Banks. The 35-year-old engineer pushed herself through the observation room, her movements smooth from years working in space. Let's see them, Zachary said. Natalie showed him a video of a test chamber. Inside, a blue shield of energy formed around a metal cube. Weapons fired at the shield, lasers, projectiles, and energy beams similar to Vexari weapons. The shield absorbed each hit, glowing brighter with each impact. It works, Zachary said, his voice quiet with awe. The shield doesn't just block the attacks, it stores the energy and can redirect it, Natalie finished. The Vexari gave us the basic shield technology, but they never imagined we could modify it this way. Similar scenes played out across the solar system. In the hollow moons of Saturn, engineers tested engines that could fold space in ways the Vexari thought impossible for primitive humans. On Mars, soldiers trained with weapons that combined Earth's conventional arms with adapted alien technology. All of this happened in secret. When Vexari inspectors visited Earth or its public colonies on the Moon and Mars, they saw only what humans wanted them to see: grateful acceptance of their guidance and technology. Admiral Catherine Donovan, now with gray in her once black hair, sat in her office beneath the Rocky Mountains. The headquarters of the United Earth Defense Force had moved underground years ago, away from prying eyes. Tell me about the fleet, she said to Alan Wright, now her chief of intelligence. We have 200 ships ready, Alan replied. The Vexari know about 20 of them, the ones we built openly with their help. The other 180 are hidden throughout the solar system. And they suspect nothing? Alan shook his head. Their arrogance blinds them. Their inspectors see our public ships and facilities and assume that's all we have. They can't imagine that we could build advanced ships without their guidance. Catherine nodded. The Vexari's dismissal of human warnings 10 years ago had given Earth time to prepare, but that time might be running out. The latest intelligence? She asked. Concerning, Alan said, showing her reports from deep cover agents. The Vexari Confederation is preparing for what they call the integration phase for Earth and 3 other species they've been helping. From what we've gathered, this means military occupation and direct rule. Catherine's face hardened. Timeline? 6 months, maybe less. Later that day, Olivia Mercer, now an ambassador to the Vexari, met with an unusual visitor in a secure room deep underground. The alien before her was not Vexari. It was shorter, with green-blue skin and large eyes that seemed full of sorrow. Thank you for meeting me in secret, Ambassador Mercer, the alien said. I am Talsik of the Kaldaran people. We were the first species the Vexari helped 300 years ago. How did you get past the Vexari? Olivia asked. I serve as a cultural attaché on their diplomatic vessels. It provides some freedom of movement, though I risked much to come here. Talsik's voice trembled slightly. I came to warn you. The Vexari plan to move against Earth soon. We know, Olivia said. What can you tell us about the integration phase? Talsik's large eyes blinked rapidly. You know of this? Then you know more than my ancestors did. The integration begins with a show of force, warships appearing suddenly in orbit. The Vexari demand immediate surrender and acceptance of their governors. Those who resist are punished from orbit. And after that, some become citizens of the Confederation, but with fewer rights than true Vexari. Most become workers, soldiers, or servants. The Vexari take the best of each world for themselves. Talsik paused. They've done this to 17 species now. My people were the first. We've spent 3 centuries trying to regain our freedom. Perhaps that time is coming, Olivia said carefully. Talsik looked at her with surprise. What do you mean? Let's just say that Earth didn't ignore our own warnings, even if the Vexari dismissed them. The next month, Admiral Donovan called an emergency meeting with Earth's military leaders. Captain Benjamin Hayes, commander of the newly completed warship UES Defiance, attended via secure channel from his hidden base inside the moon. Our intelligence confirms it, Admiral Donovan said. The Vexari integration fleet has departed their central systems. They'll reach Earth in approximately 2 weeks. The room fell silent. For 10 years they had prepared for this moment, but now that it was here, the weight of it pressed down on everyone. The Vexari fleet includes 30 major warships and over 100 support vessels, Alan Wright reported. They believe we have only our 20 public ships to defend Earth. They expect no real resistance. Will our ships be ready? Asked General Maria Collins of the North American Defense Command. Captain Hayes answered from the screen. The Defiance is fully operational, as are 150 other ships. The remaining 50 will be combat-ready within 10 days. Admiral, Donovan looked around the room. This is what we've prepared for. The Vexari believe they face a primitive species that will surrender at the first sign of force. They'll discover that humanity doesn't surrender so easily. As the meeting ended, Olivia Mercer approached Admiral Donovan. I've received a message from Talsik. The Kaldarans want to help. They've secretly contacted other subjugated species. If Earth stands against the Vexari, they're ready to rise up too. Admiral Donovan nodded slowly. Then we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for all the species the Vexari have enslaved over the centuries. The next day, as the Vexari fleet approached, the final preparations began. Across Earth, people went about their lives unaware of what was coming. Only those with the highest clearance knew that humanity's greatest test was about to begin. In his quarters aboard the Defiance, Captain Hayes looked at a photo of his family. He wondered if he would see them again, then put the photo away. The Vexari had dismissed Earth's warnings years ago. Now they would learn what humanity was truly capable of. The Vexari fleet arrived on a Tuesday. 30 massive warships appeared in Earth orbit like dark stars against the blue of the planet. Smaller ships surrounded them, forming a wall of metal and energy that seemed unbreakable. On the main Vexari vessel, Supreme Commander Zivak stood tall, his silvery skin reflecting the lights of the command center. He had led many integration operations before. Earth would be no different. "Open a channel to their leaders," Zivak ordered. The face that appeared on the screen was that of Marcus Green, Secretary General of the United Nations. He looked calm, despite the warships hanging above his world. "Supreme Commander, Green," said with a slight bow, "we were not expecting such a large delegation." "This is not a delegation," Zivak stated flatly. "The time for talks is over. The Vexari Confederation has decided that Earth will now enter the integration phase. Your military forces will stand down. Your governments will accept Vexari governors. Your people will serve the greater good of the Confederation." Green's face showed no fear, only a polite interest. "And if we decline this honor?" Zivak's expression hardened. "This is not a request. You have 48 hours to prepare your people and surrender your military assets. If you refuse, we will destroy your major cities from orbit." After the transmission ended, Green met with Earth's Hidden War Council. Around the table sat Admiral Donovan, Olivia Mercer, Alan Wright, and military leaders from around the world. "They gave us 48 hours, Green reported. "It seems your predictions were accurate, Ambassador Mercer." Olivia nodded grimly. "Talsik said this is how it always begins. A show of force, an ultimatum, then subjugation. Except this time, they've misjudged their opponent," Admiral Donovan said. She turned to a screen showing Captain Hayes on the bridge of the Defiance. "Captain, is the fleet ready?" "Yes, Admiral," Hayes replied. "All ships are in position and awaiting your command." "Good." Donovan looked around the room. "I suggest we ask for more time. Tell them we need 72 hours to prepare our populations for the transition. Act defeated, let them think we're scrambling to surrender." "And then?" asked General Singh of the Asian Alliance. "And then we show them what humanity is truly capable of," Donovan said. "Operation Thunderstrike will commence at hour 71. True to Donovan's prediction, Zivak granted the extra time. The Vexari Supreme Commander saw it as further proof of human weakness. His ships remained in orbit, weapons ready but powered down to minimal levels. Why waste energy when the primitive humans were clearly terrified into submission? For 3 days, Earth appeared to prepare for surrender. Vexari observers reported seeing military units returning to bases, governments making public statements about cooperation, and citizens being urged to remain calm during the transition. What the Vexari didn't see were the final preparations happening in secret. The hidden fleet moved silently into attack positions. Soldiers boarded ships deep inside hollowed-out moons and asteroids. Engineers made final adjustments to weapons, systems that combined human ingenuity with adapted alien technology. On the Defiance, Captain Benjamin Hayes addressed his crew. At 39, he had spent the last 10 years preparing for this moment. "The Vexari think we're surrendering," he told the men and women standing before him. "They think we're weak because we're young. They think we lack the will to fight because we asked for more time. Today we proved them wrong." In orbit around Earth, Supreme Commander Zivak received reports from his fleet. "All is proceeding as expected," his second-in-command reported. "The humans are accepting their fate with surprising order. Perhaps they are not as wild as our reports suggested." Zivak nodded. "This species will serve the Confederation well, once properly controlled. Their adaptability will be useful." The countdown to hour 71 continued. Across Earth, civilians went about their business, most unaware of what was about to happen. Only those with special knowledge noticed the subtle signs, slight changes in satellite television signals, Brief power fluctuations, emergency systems running quiet tests. Alan Wright stood with Admiral Donovan in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. On screens around them, they could see the positions of every ship in Earth's fleet and every Vexari vessel. 1 hour until thunderstrike, Alan said. The Vexari still suspect nothing. Because their arrogance blinds them, Donovan replied. They cannot imagine that in 10 years, we could understand and improve upon technology it took them centuries to develop. At hour 70, Olivia Mercer made one final transmission to the Vexari flagship. Her face showed resignation and defeat. Supreme Commander Zyvax, we are almost ready for the transition. Our military leaders have some final questions. About the surrender process, could we have 1 more hour to address these concerns? Zyvax smiled thinly. Very well, Ambassador. 1 more hour. But there will be no further delays. The transmission ended, and Olivia looked at Secretary General Green. He bought it. 1 more hour. Then let's use it wisely, Green said, as hour 71 approached. Captain Hayes gave the order for his crew to prepare for battle. The Defiance, hidden in the shadow of the moon, powered up systems that had remained dormant during the Vexari's arrival. Similar scenes played out on hundreds of ships throughout the solar system. 10 minutes before attack time, Admiral Donovan sent one simple message to all Earth forces. Remember Cassandra. When the clock hit hour 71 exactly, Operation Thunderstrike began. The Defiance emerged from the moon's shadow, its engines using modified Vexari technology to move faster than the aliens thought possible. Around the solar system, human ships appeared from hiding places in asteroids, moons, and even the clouds of Jupiter. On the Vexari flagship, alarms blared as sensors detected the sudden appearance of ships, hundreds of ships, using technology that should have been beyond human capabilities. What is happening? Zyvax demanded, watching as his screens filled with approaching vessels. Unknown ships appearing from multiple vectors, his officer reported, panic in his voice. They're using our own technology against us. Before Zyvax could respond, the first shots were fired. The Defiance targeted the engines of the Vexari flagship with weapons that combined human missile technology with Vexari energy systems. The shields of the alien ship flared but couldn't stop the attack, because the weapons had been specifically designed to bypass those shields. As battles erupted across the solar system, Zyvax realized the terrible truth. The humans had never planned to surrender. For 10 years they had been preparing for this moment. They had studied Vexari technology, improved upon it, and built a fleet in secret. The species that Zyvax had dismissed as primitive had just outmaneuvered the most powerful force in the Orion Arm, and now humanity's warships controlled their fate. The battle for Earth lasted 6 hours. What the Vexari had planned as a simple show of force before an easy conquest turned into the worst defeat their confederation had suffered in 1,000 years. Captain Benjamin Hayes stood on the bridge of the Defiance as his ship led the attack on the Vexari flagship. Around him, his crew worked with quiet focus, years of training paying off in this crucial moment. Target their engines and weapons first, Hayes ordered. Remember the plan. We want to capture, not destroy. The Defiance fired again, its weapons cutting through the Vexari shields like they weren't there. Years of studying alien technology had revealed weaknesses the Vexari never thought humans would discover. Sir, we've disabled their main engines, reported Weapons Officer Eric Young. Their shields are failing, Hayes nodded. Prepare boarding teams. Across the solar system, similar scenes played out as Earth's hidden fleet engaged the shocked Vexari forces. The alien ships, though powerful, had come expecting no resistance. Their weapons were at minimal power, their crews unprepared for battle. On Mars, Commander Ryan Daniels led a strike team against a Vexari outpost the aliens had built years ago, supposedly to help humanity settle the Red Planet. In reality, it had been a forward base for the planned occupation. Team 2, secure the communication center, Ryan ordered as his soldiers moved through the facility. The Vexari inside surrendered quickly, still confused by the sudden attack from the humans they had dismissed as primitive. Back on Earth, Admiral Donovan watched the battle unfold on large screens in the command center. Beside her, Alan Wright tracked the progress of each engagement. The Defiance has disabled the Vexari flagship, Alan reported. Boarding teams are moving in now. And the rest of the fleet? Donovan asked. We've disabled or captured 60% of their ships. The remaining 40% are in retreat, but our outer system forces are cutting off their escape routes. Donovan allowed herself a small smile. 10 years of preparation. 10 years of being underestimated. Today it pays off. Aboard the Vexari flagship, Captain Hayes led the boarding team himself. They moved through the massive ship, their armor combining human design with modified Vexari technology. When they reached the bridge, they found Supreme Commander Zivax and his officers still trying to understand what had happened. This is impossible, Zivax said as Hayes entered, his voice a mix of anger and shock. Your species is too young, too primitive to defeat us. You made a mistake, Hayes replied calmly, his weapon aimed at the Vexari commander. You judged us by our current technology, not by our potential. You dismissed our warnings because you couldn't imagine we could understand your true intentions. Zivax's silver eyes narrowed. You used our own technology against us. Improved upon it, actually, Hayes corrected. You gave us the basics, thinking we would use them exactly as you instructed. But humans have always been good at taking ideas and making them better. As Hayes secured the Vexari leadership, Communications Officer Grace Martinez was implementing another key part of Operation Thunderstrike. From the UES Liberty, she broadcast a message to all species in the Vexari Confederation. Attention all peoples of the Confederation, she began. This is Earth. For 10 years, the Vexari have planned to conquer our world, just as they have conquered many of yours. Today, we fought back. The broadcast included footage from the battle, showing Earth ships defeating the supposedly superior Vexari fleet. But more importantly, it included evidence that Talsic and other allies had provided. Historical records showing how the Vexari had subjugated species after species with the same pattern of false friendship, followed by military occupation. We are not your enemies, Grace continued. We fight not just for Earth's freedom, but for the freedom of all species under Vexari control. Today we prove that they can be defeated. The message reached thousands of worlds across Vexari space. On planets where other species had lived under Confederation rule for generations, people gathered around screens to watch in stunned silence. The Vexari had always seemed invincible. Now a young species had shown they were not. 3 hours after the battle began, Admiral Donovan received a surprising message. Uprisings had started on 7 different worlds, as subjugated species inspired by Earth's resistance rose up against their Vexari controllers. It's spreading faster than we expected, Olivia Mercer said, watching the reports come in. Hope is a powerful weapon, Donovan replied. These species have waited centuries for a chance at freedom. We just showed them it's possible. By the 6th hour, the battle was over. Of the 30 major Vexari warships that had arrived to conquer, Earth 24 had been captured intact. The others had been disabled or destroyed when they refused to surrender. Earth had lost ships too, 12 destroyed and 20 heavily damaged, but the victory was overwhelming. In a secure room aboard the Defiance, Captain Hayes met with Supreme Commander Zivax. The Vexari leader had been treated for minor injuries, but otherwise was unharmed. What happens now? Zivax asked, his tone resigned. Will you destroy our worlds as revenge? That is what we would do. Hayes shook his head. No, that's the difference you never understood. We don't want to replace you as conquerors. We want to end the cycle of conquest altogether. Later that day, Earth's leaders gathered to discuss their unexpected victory and what would come next. The room was quiet despite the triumph. Everyone, aware of the responsibility they now faced. We have captured most of the Vexari fleet, Admiral Donovan reported. We control their navigation systems, their communication networks, and their weapons. In short, we control their fate. And we've received messages from 12 different species within the Confederation, Olivia added. They want our help overthrowing their Vexari governors. Secretary General Green looked around the table. We prepared for years to defend Earth. We never expected to find ourselves responsible for reshaping the politics of the entire Orion arm. What choice do we have? Admiral Donovan asked. If we do nothing, the Vexari will rebuild and return. If we help these other species, we create allies who will stand with us in the future. Across the solar system, Earth's ships maintained their guard as news of the victory spread from planet to planet. The species that had been dismissed as too primitive to pose a threat had, in 6 hours, changed the balance of power that had existed for centuries. The Vexari had ignored Earth's warnings. Now humanity's warships controlled their fate, and perhaps the fate of all species in this part of the galaxy. 6 months passed since the battle for Earth. The solar system had changed in ways few could have imagined. Human ships patrolled the space around not just Earth, but the home planets of 7 other species who had risen up against their Vexari. Overlords Admiral Catherine Donovan stood at the window of the observation deck on the space station Unity. The massive structure orbited Jupiter, serving as the headquarters for what was now called the Alliance of Free Worlds. Below her, ships from Earth, Caldara, and 5 other formerly subjugated planets moved through training exercises. "Admiral, they're ready for you in the council chamber," said her aide, Lieutenant Scott Miller. Catherine nodded and followed him through the curved hallways of the station. As she walked, aliens of different species moved aside respectfully. 6 months ago, these beings had lived under Vexari control. Now they were allies, united by their newfound freedom. The council chamber was a large, circular room with a table in the center. Around it sat representatives from all 8 member worlds of the Alliance. Some looked nearly human, others were very different, but all shared a common purpose. "The reports from the edge of Vexari space are confirmed," announced Talsik, now serving as the Caldaran representative. "The remaining Confederation forces have fallen back to their core systems. They're abandoning outposts across the Orion arm." "And the uprisings?" asked Olivia Mercer, who represented Earth on the council. "Spreading to more worlds," replied Daxon, a tall reptilian being from Vistara. 17 systems have declared independence from the Confederation in the past month alone. Catherine took her seat at the table. After the battle for Earth, she had been chosen to lead the Alliance fleet, a combined force of ships from all member worlds. "The Vexari have requested peace talks," she informed the council. "Their remaining leadership wishes to meet on Ganymede in 2 Earth weeks." A murmur went through the chamber. Some seemed pleased, others suspicious. "Can we trust them?" asked the Ibexian representative, whose name sounded like whistling wind to human ears. "No," Catherine said simply. "But we can verify everything they do. Our ships control the approaches to their home systems. Our technology now matches or exceeds theirs. They have no choice but to negotiate." The galaxy had changed dramatically since Earth had revealed the Vexari's true intentions. For centuries, the Confederation had maintained power through secrecy and manipulation, keeping subjugated species isolated from each other. By broadcasting evidence of their conquests to all worlds simultaneously, Earth had broken that isolation. Now, information flowed freely between formerly controlled planets. Technology was shared, alliances formed. The Vexari found themselves facing not just Earth, but a growing coalition of angry species with scores to settle. On the Defiance, now the HFY flagship of the Alliance fleet, Captain Benjamin Hayes reviewed security plans for the upcoming peace conference. His ship had become a symbol of resistance across the Orion arm, the vessel that had captured Supreme Commander Zivax and helped turn the tide. "The Vexari delegation will arrive in 3 transport ships," he told his officers. "Each will be escorted by Alliance vessels. No weapons, no communications except through approved channels." "Do you think they'll try something?" asked his first officer, Commander Diane Powell. Hayes shook his head. "I think they're desperate. The Confederation is collapsing. They've lost control of half their territory already. This isn't about winning anymore. It's about survival." 2 weeks later on Ganymede, the largest moon of Jupiter, the peace conference began. The location had been chosen carefully, close enough to Earth to be secure, but neutral ground for the other species involved. In a domed facility built specifically for the meeting, representatives from 23 worlds gathered to determine the future of the Orion Arm. The Vexari delegation entered last, their once proud posture now subdued. At their head walked Zivax, released from captivity to lead the negotiations for his people. "I never thought I would see this day," Talsik whispered to Olivia as they watched the Vexari take their seats. "My people have waited 3 centuries for justice." "Justice, yes," Olivia replied. "But not revenge. That's the difference between us and them." The negotiations lasted 7 days. The Vexari, facing collapse of their empire, expected harsh terms: execution of their leaders, destruction of their worlds, enslavement of their people. It was, after all, what they would have done to a defeated enemy. Instead, they found something unexpected: demands for accountability, for reparations, for guarantees that conquest would end, but not for extinction or enslavement. On the final day, Admiral Donovan presented the terms of what would be called the Ganymede Accords. The Vexari Confederation would continue to exist, but only within its original systems. All occupied worlds would be free to join the alliance or remain independent. A council with representatives from all species would monitor compliance. "These terms are surprising," Zivax said after reading them. For the first time in 6 months, he looked directly at a human. "Why do you not destroy us when you have the power to do so?" It was Captain Hayes who answered. "Because that would make us no better than you. The cycle of conquest and revenge must end somewhere. We choose to end it here." Later, as the delegates signed the accords, Zivax approached Olivia Mercer privately. "You tried to warn us," he said quietly. 10 years ago when we first met. You saw our intentions and tried to tell us you would resist." Olivia nodded. "We did. We dismissed you as primitive and paranoid." Zivax's silver eyes looked tired. "It was our greatest mistake." "Perhaps your only mistake," Olivia suggested. "Underestimating a species based on their current technology is dangerous. What makes a civilization strong isn't the weapons they have today, but their ability to learn, to adapt, to work together when threatened." After the signing, Admiral Donovan met with the Alliance Council to discuss the future. The immediate threat was over, but questions remained about what would come next. "Our original goal was to defend Earth," Olivia reminded them. "We never expected to reshape the politics of the entire Orion Arm. Yet here we are," Talsik said. 8 species united, with 15 more considering membership in our alliance." Admiral Donovan looked around the table. "Today, we ended one chapter and began another. The Vexari threat is contained, but there is much more to do. Beyond the Orion Arm are other civilizations, other stars. We should approach them differently than the Vexari approached us." A month later, on the observation deck of the Defiance, Captain Hayes, now Admiral Hayes, watched as a new ship prepared to depart. The vessel was called Unity, built by engineers from all 8 Alliance worlds. Its mission was not conquest or control, but exploration and contact with civilizations beyond the Orion Arm. "A new protocol," Hayes said to Olivia, who stood beside him. "Approach with respect. Listen to warnings. Remember that strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation." As the Unity disappeared into the darkness of space, Hayes thought about how much had changed. The Vexari had dismissed Earth's warnings and found themselves at the mercy of humanity's warships. But humans had chosen a different path than conquest. Perhaps that was the greatest victory of all.